Alright, so I went out to Lund's Landing in my kayak um, in the later part of the summer, and ignore the date there. That is not correct. Um, and managed to happen across a bunch of these white bass that were schooling on the surface. They were just flipping all over the place, attacking. I'm assuming just little minnows and things, and they were just everywhere. And I'm trying to get a couple of pictures, just looking for the little white splashes on the surface. They look really far away from in the camera, but they're well within casting distance. And it's just a big school of them just going crazy. So I end up just casting this rattle trap, fire tiger color rattle trap, also known as a lipless crankbait, up in them, and I'll end up catching quite a few here. Um, the tackle I'm using is a Abu Garcia Silver Max fishing rod and reel combo, and I have 15-pound test Cajun fishing line on. And I am actually, since I'm on Lake Sakakawea, I have a clear um, Berkeley Big Game 60-pound test leader on the end that I've made. And that might seem kind of crazy, especially when you see these fish. But on Lake Sakakawea and fishing a rattle trap, you have a really good chance of catching some pike. So I wanted to make sure that I don't get bit off by the pike. And they will cut 15-pound tests like it was butter. So that's what I have the leader there for. And that was an easy release there. And I've actually had the leader work great. I know a lot of people use fluorocarbon or wire leaders, and I've used wire leaders for a really long time, but I wanted to try something that maybe would have a little bit less visibility in the water and is a little bit easier to make and cheaper and all that fun stuff. And I have not had any issues with the monofilament leader. You do need to replace them eventually, but luckily that's just a couple of pliers and a couple of knots, later, and you can even reuse all the tackle and like hardware and stuff. I am out in my kayak, and it's a Perception Sport 10.5. I've done a few modifications to it, but nothing crazy. And behind me there I have a nice fishing crate with all my access to all my things and my net and stuff. My plan today was to go walleye fishing. I was going to paddle out, about a 30-minute paddle out to this spot that I wanted to fish on. But on the way out there, I ran into these guys and couldn't pass this up. Like, this is too much fun. Um, I didn't end up catching any big white bass here. These are all pretty just average sized. And I kept trying to lip them like a bass, but I just decided that wasn't working out, and eventually just grabbed them. But yeah, you can get a pretty good shot of the bait there. It's working out pretty good. But yeah, there later I'll also catch some pretty nice fish. But this trip ended up being rather interesting as far as the walleye fishing goes. So I'll let you guys watch. And this part here was really awesome. They were actually right underneath the boat, so I was just moving the lure back and forth and getting lots of fish to strike. And I missed a bunch because they were pretty small, but they were still really fun to catch. And here we have just a quick sped up frame so you can see how much kayaking or paddling, I guess I could say, that I was doing to get to this spot. Um, you know, sped up for your convenience. So now it's time to give the walleye a chance here. We finally got to the spot. You see that floating right behind me there is my T-Pod. It's a by Vexilar. It's a Wi-Fi enabled depth finder. So basically, I can connect to it using my phone on over a Wi-Fi network, and I can basically have my mobile depth finder. It works out really great actually, and it works out really great for the kayak. The only downside is battery powered. I only have so much battery and stuff. The rig I'm using there is a Lindy spinner. It's just one that I made. It's a couple beads and some blades and a slow death hook with a worm, and that's attached to a bottom bouncer with about a 3.5 foot leader, and you just drag that along the bottom. Unfortunately, since I'm kayaking and it's relatively calm today, I do have to paddle, and that'll end up making me miss a lot of fish. You'll see here, if you watch the rod tip, you'll see a couple of bites here and there. I'll slow down for them. It makes it really hard to catch some fish if there's really no breeze to kind of push you along doing this, but had to give it a shot. The scenery is great here. You're going to see some awesome cliffs, and I'll show you some more shots of that later. But here's a bite right here if you watch the tip. You'll see just the slightest little shock in it, and that will be the bite that I missed, and that's the only chance I got. But I'll try a couple more times, but to no avail. I won't get too many walleye on this trip. And here's a shot at that scenery I was telling you about. The sun was setting. It's in the evening here. Lake Sakakawea, nice cut bank bluffs, just really pretty. The cliffs are big, way bigger than they kind of look here. Obviously, the wide angle lens and everything kind of makes things look a little smaller, but it's really nice fishing out there. Also, a couple of random bugs. This guy decided to try to be a hitchhiker. I don't know what he was. Kind of weird looking. But yeah, never know what you'll find out there. Now, I was trolling that rattle trap back on my way back to shore, and yeah, I hooked into this thing, about doubled over the pole. I'm already a little bit into the fight. I had to make sure the camera was on and everything. I've been fighting him for a little while. Didn't know how big he was, but he's tiring out now, so I can slowly start to get him in. That Abu Garcia rod and reel work great, but I don't know how well he's hooked, and I'm not quite sure what it is, and I'm in a kayak, so there's only so much power I can leverage against them. So you're going to see me get hauled around a little bit here. I think I make 1.5 complete rotations. Also, paddle leash, awesome. Yeah, pole tip going in the water, you know it's a good fish. A couple of boats will drive by, and they're looking at me all wondering what's going on. I'm not quite sure what I've got yet. I haven't seen it or know anything about it. I just know that it's taking drag and putting up a great fight. There, I finally got to see it, and I now know what it is. But he's not done yet. Tell you what, I'm really glad about this new bigger net that I bought here. It's definitely come in handy on more than one occasion. Not done yet. I mean, this was a good fight. I really enjoyed this fish right here at evening, and the reach and the pull. Yeah, big fish. A lot of work to get this fish in. Um, and he's going to give me a shower to make sure that I'm clean after my adventure with him. Really love these like plastic dip nets in this situation. This is a northern pike, and they're really notorious for just twisting and death rolling in the net. And these things really help against that. But this is a nice fish here. I'm going to get my grabbers on him pretty soon here because that he inhaled that thing. The careful look into the mouth. I don't know if you guys know much about pike, but they are covered with teeth. And I hadn't got my big pliers yet in this situation, so I had to carefully dig this one out. He took it all. So, but they got so many teeth in there. But finally get him out, get a chance to show him off. It's a nice fish, real nice fish. I love catching these big pike. But yeah, that was my last fish of the day, and my actually the truck is, you can see it right there in the back left hand corner. That's my vehicle right over there. So I'm going to let him get a little bit of a breather, get him some water, get a good measurement on him, all that fun stuff, and then I'll let her go back into the water. But nice fish, good way to end the day.